by the time they disappeared, um, who knows what you could even do with that. I do have like a depression on my back where one of them was, and now it's just an empty hole. You can almost like stick your finger into my what should be muscle. And various things just occurred that made me feel like, looking back, that I was probably being abducted. Since then, that stopped at some point. It seems to have stopped at some point. I've also had a guest that told me that it's still happening, but I just don't agree. But it seemed to have stopped way back then. And I also seem to have started to have interactions with what people would call UFOs, but what I know are interdimensional entities that don't fly around in ships. They just seem to fly around in ships. And I just have had thousands. I couldn't even list all of them. The most intense ones. Go ahead.
Do you think the interdimensional beings are like the shadow people?
I'm sure the shadow people are of the same sort of ability and energy, but I don't think the shadow people are the same things that are sparkling around in the sky.
Okay. Well, I meant like the visitors that don't have the UFOs, like parallel existences, because I've always thought that they're parallel. I think even sometimes when I do a ghost box session and investigation, I'm not always talking to a ghost.
Yes.
I think I'm talking to those who live alongside us every day, and they're very aware of us. And once they realize we can hear them and communicate,
they're like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think it's very similar to that. These entities that are in the sky that are, I've seen them present themselves in various shapes and forms. So they do look like ships sometimes, and they can look like ships if they want to. And when I've seen them in the daylight, I've seen them turn in from, for example, like a jet, like a commercial airplane, and then just morph in front of my eyes into a Cessna, and then turn into a cloud. So
that's interesting. Okay.
They can look literally like anything they want. And this is how I learned that they don't have a physical form, but they can present to us however. And, whether they're actively bending light and creating something way over there, or whether, as some people have posited, they're sending that image into your mind so that that's what you see, it amounts to the same difference, right? Either way, they're non-physical, they're intelligent, and they can appear however they would like to appear. So
and to qualify, you think that that's some of them, not all of them, right?
Right. Yeah, I make no claims to understand what was abducting me. That very easily could have been military operations cloaked to seem like UFOs and aliens, and it could very well be that there's physical aliens here taking people and doing random things with them. I don't know. I don't have enough experience to understand what that was. It did seem like if they're going to put physical objects in my body, like they must be physical themselves. And that a lot of people have a lot of physical experiences to back that up. So it seems like that's happening. But again, is it military operations and they're just meant to seem that?
It's probably a little bit of everything. Like I said, I have a lot of UFO folks on here. Dr. Michael Lynch is a friend of ours and a physicist, and he's a big believer, that, Thor Magnuson and we have all these different races that are interacting with us. And then he spoke about a little bit about what you're touching on too, that there are some of them too that do just what you're talking to. That they manipulate our minds, they manipulate what we see, what we hear. They're interacting. They're not always on the good side of things. They're not doing good things.
Well, I'll say the vast majority of those I've interacted with in the sky, because that's the other thing, is they're very clearly what we would call psychic, and they respond to your thoughts and your energies and your questions and everything. So when I first started to understand that they were constantly around me, they clearly wanted my attention. I started sending them thoughts and saying things like, are you an alien? Are you a demon? Like, what are you? And I would just ask them, like, if you, because I'm dense, I'm not, if you're sending me information, I'm not hearing you. So just flash once for yes and twice for no. And they started using that pattern with me. And so we started being able to have conversations, and yeah, some of them are not very nice, and most were very nice.
What would you think that they want from you? I mean, or some of us, what do you think it is that they're wanting?
I think that they have goals for the direction humanity is taking. And, if you think about how angels and demons are described, that's also how they're described, right? I don't actually see angels and demons as different from what I'm seeing and interacting with in the sky. I think
you beat me to the question. Okay.
I think this is one way they present themselves. And in native traditions, and by one of my shamanic teachers, they call these wogies, or some tribes call these wogies, and they understand them in exactly that way, that they are spiritual entities. They can present physically and make you see whatever they would like you to see them as, and they have specific goals with your spiritual outcome. So some of them want humanity to like go down the good road, or however you want to describe that, and some of them would rather see you fail and want to scare you and want you to go down the bad road. And what do they get out of that? I mean, if they're spiritual beings and that's really what their goals are, they clearly get something out of it if they're their own evolution as well, right? Or their own progression as well.
Right. Right.
And some feel that it's more advantageous for themselves to do it in the negative way, and some for the positive, and for whatever reasons, is there actually like a God and a Satan? That there doesn't seem that way. It seems like there's a God, and it seems like what we call Satan is just the collective of these negative energies that are jealous, hateful, angry, and have gone into dark places themselves and just don't see anything but that, and just want everyone to join them there.
I'm a believer in the sense, I try to have my logical mind around, God, and my logical mind would tell me, it's the chicken and the egg thing. It's like, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And you'd have a lot of people who would say, well, the chicken, because they have to lay the egg. Okay.
Where'd the chicken come from?
Yeah, where'd the chicken come from? So we're in the same boat. So I've often said, what's to say, that we're from different beings, or we've been genetically modified, when these beings came down or whatever. There's a species of man, that we discovered a few years back due to science. It's Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon. It's one of the two that's not even related to us. For years we thought we were part of both, and we're not. Yeah. And a lot of us were saying, well, how the hell could that be? And that lends to the question to what you're talking about is, are these beings from, like you said, an interdimension that's always lived alongside of us, but let's say they've progressed quicker in time and farther advanced than we are, or is it us? Have you given a thought that maybe it's us farther in advance, and we're just coming back to play games or to help each other out, or is that thought process entered your mind too?
My brother actually was the first person to ever suggest this to me when we were maybe, 19 or so. And he said, like, think about it. If we're, if evolution is happening, then our jaws are getting smaller, our foreheads are getting wider, our eyes are getting bigger. And if you look at the traditional gray alien, that's that.
That's that, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's also this whole, the further we go, we see we're developing AI and all this technology. And it's like, we're trying to
come from.
Yeah.
Where'd a lot of this just jump? Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely believe timelines and time travel and these types of things exist at the very least on the spiritual level, if not on the physical level. And so it very well could be, some aspect of our future selves coming back for some genetic material. Maybe we've found ourselves in a pickle, combining with too much with, technology, or who knows what.
Can the spiritual world that you're in touch with, do you think that they can offer up a lot of, guide outside the writings, what we're talking about, the book? I mean, outside of that being a good guidebook, and I don't, send the hate mail to wherever, I just say what I say. Do you think that they can offer a lot of insight about, what we should be looking for, even those that are, who have passed on? Because I believe there's an afterlife, and the dead outnumber the living. That's just a mathematical formula that's logical. Do you think that there's messages from that side too as well, that that they've shared with you?
Yeah, it's really as we're talking about, as far as people who have passed on and interacting with them, the messages tend to be pretty positive and very vague. They don't tend to give a lot of like, here's what happens, and then you'll do this, and here's where I'm at right now, and here's what it looks like. But they're like, hey, I love you. I still love you. I'm still here. It's almost always a message like that. It's like, hey, remember that time we sat on the dock and fished together? Like, that was my happiest moment. Things like that. It's never so much, anything else. And every once in a while, it's like, hey, stop dating this person, you asshole. You know better than this, right? And so sometimes it's stuff like that. But it's even then, it's very rarely so specific. It's often much more general, for me at least. And I think that's a good thing. I think there's a reason why we don't have this super clear connection with that side, and why we don't remember our time on that side of things, if we are reincarnating. I think that that's intentional. I think that we're supposed to go through these experiences in this way, somewhat blind, and that I don't know. I don't know that we'd want to undo that. I think that there's good reason for it.
Well, I've not heard that put in such a great way.
Thank you.
I'm a guy that kind of believes, I guess two ways of it. That I think that it's a gift. If some of these people are allowed to come back, watch over us, I think a lot of them don't want to be forgotten. Maybe that makes sense. I know I don't want to be forgotten. I lived a life here. I'm trying to leave a legacy, with my children and things of that nature. Then I've run across spirits that seem to be trapped. They're lost. They don't know where they are. It seems to be across the board a dichotomy of a lot of different things, just like we are in real life. There are people who don't want to be judged and they're afraid to, I guess, go into the light, if you believe that type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't do that kind of stuff because I don't know where I'd be sending them. They could end up in East Philadelphia for all I know, but and I wouldn't want to send anybody to Philadelphia right now. Just saying.
I just usually say to them, hey, I don't know. I'm not dead, obviously, but you seem to be. And so I don't know that you know that. And I think you might.
I love how matter of fact you say that. That's
very
perfect.
Clear.
I'm not dead, but you seem to be.
You seem to be. And you may want to go somewhere else. So if you don't want to be, it seems like maybe you're stuck here. It seems like you're stuck in this emotion you had, or you're replaying these things that you experienced in life. Maybe there's something else. Maybe you want to go try to find that. Lots of people say there's a light. If you want to go into it, go into it. Maybe there's a different way you can go without staying stuck here repeating these things. Because it seems like, those that are still here are repeating. They're repeating.
Right.
Like I had a ghost recently come back to this house that used to live here. And he apparently used to fight with someone in the bathroom a lot and bang on the bathroom door to get them to come out. So every time I'm in the bathroom, he's like banging on the door, and I'm like, dude, like, is this what you want for your
afterlife? Doing the biz, yeah.
Yeah,
like banging on the door.
Like, it's slightly annoying for me, but I bet it's not that fun for you. Like, maybe you want to move on. And I just imagine that a lot of those people who are still here don't actually want to just live this out forever, right?
Right, and that leads me to my next question. Just from insight about what you're experiencing, what you're seeing. Do you believe in any of the reincarnation type of stuff that, we relive this, that there's a portion where we're, we're a ghost for a while and we kind of do our thing and then we pass into somebody else? Do you think that's a possibility?
I do. Well, I seem to have remembered 5 past lives at this point. All of them completely accidental.
Okay.
I didn't go looking for that. And so I always being the skeptic admit that maybe that's just nothing. Maybe it's genetic memory. I don't know what the difference would be anyway. But it seems to me like I have lived multiple lives. And when I have experienced the memories, it's complete and total. And I am very much just like this life, aware of everything and that you would be like if you were in that life. So
right.
That's a lot of information to just suddenly understand and experience.
No, the genetic memory thing you touched on is something I talk to when I give lectures about paranormal. I'm not I share experiences. I don't have a PhD in anything but life,
Right.
I've been around a while, but I tell them, maybe there's an aspect of that too, because we know scientifically our genomes contain memory. So maybe that's part of it too. Why when you hear certain music or you see certain landscapes, it looks familiar to you, you're drawn to certain things.
Yeah.
That made sense to me, but only to a point, only to a point. I think some of the other stuff, as you said, I believe there's a possibility that we, I've heard somebody put it eloquently at one point that, the reason you cry when you were born, if you've heard this before, is because you're upset that you've lost everything you had in your past life and you're soon going to forget it. And then as soon as you're born, it's all forgotten. And now you're living somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense to everybody. Yeah, that moment. Yeah. It's that moment.
Yep. You're like, and I can't tell any of these people about it because they won't understand.
They won't understand, and now it's gone. Now I know I'm somebody else, and I might have recalled memory of it later on because I know my children displayed some weird stuff, when they were younger. But I just wondered. Now the PTSD thing that I had mentioned early in the beginning of the program. Are you out there offering any type of education or coaching or anything? Because I think with people who experience a lot of things that you went through and things I've gone through, it leaves that mark.
Yes, I definitely, I don't pretend to be a therapist or, I think people should be careful who they choose to help them with these issues. I myself have healed from CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, and
Right.
not actually related to any of this, believe it or not. It's just related to other traumas in my life. I used to think it was something that you could only get if you were in the war and bombs went off near you, or, you know, you killed people or were almost killed yourself. And that's apparently not true. And so it was a shock to me to learn that I had PTSD and CPTSD nonetheless. So I've healed from that. And so I can offer people at the very least perspective and guidance through it. And I know and understand now that the ways that I was, treated in order to heal my PTSD are almost indistinguishable from what I've been guided to offer for people for spiritual healing. This doesn't mean that you have to have CPTSD or PTSD to receive the type of healing that I offer. It just means that all of these different traditions and ways of healing just so happen to have struck on the exact same mechanisms of healing. And I find that to be really profound and beautiful, actually. And so there's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable going to therapists and people with degrees on the wall. And I have a degree on the wall too, but not that kind. And it's just not, it's too stuffy. It's too unrealistic, or they see all these movies and things about it and they have all these ideas about what it is. Or there actually are just not people who are not very good in those positions as well. And so they're more comfortable going to someone like myself, who is more on the spiritual side of things, but still understands the science and the, I guess the mainstream official version of how things should go. And so I just think people should follow their own intuition on that. And they should, more than anything, the advice I always give people is no matter what type of healing or therapy or, whatever you're looking for, you should be going to someone who you like. You should be trusting someone who you feel like you trust. If you don't feel that and you don't like them, it's not going to go very well no matter what they're doing, right? So I just think people should follow their intuition on that and say, you know what? This is the best advice I ever got from one of my own teachers was, don't pick people whose lives and personalities you don't enjoy, because whatever they're going to offer you, it's going to lead you towards what they have already, right? No one can heal you from anything or help you heal yourself of anything that they haven't done themselves. So if you look at them and their life is a mess and they seem like kind of a dick, that's probably not the person you want to go to.
I used to give that speech to a lot of people when I, in my career, when I did corporate security, and I was working for a lot of social workers. And no diss against social workers, but they were more screwed up than half the people they were helping. Truly. And I just thought, no wonder half the people they're helping are just as screwed up still.
Yeah.
And it's the same. I think that's the same thing that you're saying, and in those people who kind of had themselves together and they were knew what they were doing, they were some of the better workers that I saw, work there as far as therapists and getting people help and what they needed. Didn't mean to get off track there, but that was just, definitely. I found that to be a very crazy connection.
Yeah.
So I guess, as far as, the things that you've experienced and where you've done, where are you now in your life? I mean, are you in a comfortable, better place? I see you smile. You got a great smile and you seem happy. I get a good feel off of you. I mean, obviously the answer to that is yes, but
yeah.
Are there things that still bother you?
I mean, life is life. There's going to be hard things and hard times, and there's always something that I'm working to improve about myself. So there's that. But as far as, I came from this world of trauma and lots of psychic and paranormal interaction and attack, mostly, it felt like, to now where I understand exactly what's going on all the time. And I am happy and well-rounded. And I, as faux pas as it is to say, I don't have PTSD anymore. I don't have flashbacks, and I don't have these types of things drag me down. So yeah, things are very good. And, I tell people, like, just a few years ago, I went through this massive life transformation in which, again, I was guided to quit teaching, sell my car, sell my house, and get in a van and drive around the continent and just see where life took me, because I was not doing this anymore. I had reached everything that I had put out for myself as a goal in life and realized that was all really cool. And I was happy, but I wasn't really, truly happy. It wasn't truly in alignment with what I was really came here to do. And I couldn't even put my finger on that. I just knew there was something, and it wasn't this. I had got my master's degree. I had taught for over 14 years. I had ended up in the exact type of school I always aimed to teach at, like my goal school. I was there. I did it. I had the exact house I'd always dreamed of, the car I wanted. I had the guy I wanted. Like, everything was perfect, but it just wasn't It just wasn't what I wanted. It was so weird to even admit that, because how can you have everything you want and be happy, but not be happy enough, right? And we're not even
Right.
allowed to think of that. We're not even allowed to imagine if you're just even sort of happy, you should just be grateful and move on. And I'm like, no, I came to this life for a reason, right? And I'm going to die someday, and I'm not dead yet. So what is it? What is it that I am missing? And what am I not doing? And so I drove around the continent in my van. And this is when I really started to
Now,
really strongly understand what I was really supposed to do.
I got to ask you, did you YouTube or do anything about your travels, or you just kind of?
I already had the show Rogueways going, and so I did share my travels as little short, just sort of scenery here and there, and a few thoughts.
That's where I know you from then. Okay.
Oh, okay.
The minute you said that, I'm like, I think maybe I've seen a couple of her things with her
Oh,
traveling
really?
around. Yeah.
Well, that's funny.
Me and my wife were going to do the same thing. You were inspirational. A lot of people
Oh,
who have done
wow.
that. So we talked about doing the RV thing full time. Same reasons. Just we're done.
Yeah.
Kind of been there, done all this stuff. And we were going to come back, visit the grandkids, but she chose a different career path here. So we've now said we'll do that in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So we're doing a different thing now, but I am very certain that I have come across your travels, because I watch a lot of folks who do that, and they sound like you. They're in that place with their life, and man, what's it all worth? Get out and see the world and enjoy your life and be happy.
Yeah. Well, and people, I mean, I was happy. I was fine. I was like, yeah, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go
There's
do
more,
this. People
right? There's more
lost
good.
it.
There's more good in the world than there is negative. I think if you're out there, you're going to find the negative, but I don't know. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist to the highest degree, where even with paranormal, I've said I've experienced more beauty with working in paranormal than I have anything that's been terrifying.
Yes.
And the terrifying is such a small amount of what I do with what I do in the paranormal.
Yeah.
But that's wonderful. Go ahead.
I always like to emphasize that to people, because some of my stories of my negative encounters are so terrifying. And I just always like to do exactly what you just did and remind people there's way more good than bad. You have way more what I call allies on your side, protecting you, helping you, guiding you, even if you don't know it all the time, than you ever will experience the bad guys.
Do you believe in guardian angels?
I don't know. I believe that we all have our guardians and our guides and our allies. And so I think calling them guardian angels is one thing you can call them.
I'm just using that generic word. I'm with you. I think that these might have been people who are alive, who are family, or somebody who loved us. They're given that gift to watch over us and keep track of what we're doing. You hear that little whisper in your ear, or something happens. I know we lost our dog here not too long ago, and we've been having really strange run-ins with him. I'm a person who believes that spirits, obviously, if they can feel love, I think that they've got a spirit. And I don't know. I don't know. I got off track there, but I think that he's watching over us too. And it's a weird thing. We miss Luke like crazy, but I hear his footsteps, and we hear stuff in the other room. And there was a night where we went to bed, and my wife's slipper had mysteriously moved from the bedroom out to the middle of the floor. And that's something he used to do. He'd grab one of our shoes and go lay down with it out there in the living room. So kind of cool.
Definitely.
Have you had run-in with anything to do with animal spirits? Or
definitely. Yeah. I think animals, both living and past, are some of the main interactions I have, actually. And so I have a really good friend who's even more clear of a channel for that than I am. She's amazing, actually. So she can actually hear word for word these entire messages and carry them through to people. And she's really skilled like that. But yeah, I definitely do. One of my most profound experiences was with, I had to do in connection with my dog who had died, the same dog actually who growled at the negative entity that had been harassing me. He died, and many years went by, and I had, what it was a dream, if people want to call it that, but it clearly was more than that. And, I always tell people, like, think about the different types of dreams you've had, right? You have the dreams that are just nonsense, and they're just going through the day or going through random information and sorting it. And you have dreams that have come true. Most people have had actually one or more prophetic dreams in their lives.
Yep,
you have the dreams of people who have died and are coming to talk to you, and that that's more than just a dream. So you can already see, like, the different layers of types of dreams, and some of them, they're all real, right? But some of them are more real and interactive than others. And so this was that type of very, very vivid, out of body sort of dream. and I was hanging out with God. And I look back and I know it wasn't like God, right? But it was like God's essence. And so maybe this was an angel, we might call it, or something really high up that was close to God. But I was hanging out with what I thought was God, and it was just an immense glowing light field. And I, of course, picture God in the traditional Western beard and robe and like white guy. So that's who that was to me. And I was actually like in his arms, and he was just holding me. And it was the best I have ever felt, the most love I have ever. I can't describe any of it, actually. Nothing I could say could come close, but it was the best feeling I've ever had. And I was like this little 3-year-old, like curious child. I was like, okay, God, what about this? Okay, what about this? What about that? And I just was grilling God, like all these things. It was super exciting for me. And finally he kind of said like, well, it's going to be time for you to go now soon, so we're going to have to say goodbye. And I was like, wait, what about this, and I had all these other questions. And finally he's like, no, you really do have to go. And I said, okay, last question. He said, what is it? And I said, could I see my dog again? It's my best friend in the whole world. And he gave me a very strange look. And the look, now I look back, and it was kind of like, sure, but I don't know if you really know what you're asking for. And he gave me that look, and he said, yes. And I said, good, yay. So I woke up, and I thought, wow, that was a crazy dream. And then it was so good, right? It felt so real. And then I heard a noise out in my living room, and I was like, what is that? There shouldn't be anything in my living room. And I ran out like it was Christmas Day, and I looked, and my dog was there. And I was like, oh my God, God made good on his word. And I grabbed my dog, and I'm hugging him, and I'm crying. I'm like, I love you so much. I love you so much. Crying, happy tears. And then I woke up again.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, that was so real. That was all so real. And I ran out to the living room to see if my dog was there, and he wasn't there. And it just, the crash from that high of both hanging out with the best feeling I've ever felt, and then seeing my dog and loving on him, and then losing that all again, I actually just cried for that whole day. I was a wreck, and I couldn't explain it to anyone. They're like, wait, so you had a weird dream? I'm like, no, I met God, and then I saw my dog again, and now they're both gone.
Well, I get you, Lindsay, because I've had the same thing. I understand exactly what you're saying. And it was with my mom. I didn't expect her to come back. She showed up to my daughter first, but I knew she was there. And then just recently she showed up again, which I didn't think I'd have contact with her again. And again, it's real. That she's actually talking to you, and she's just saying some silly things. And my funny thing was this: when I was little, I remember my mom just always laughing, and there was just always joy, even though we had some rough times growing up. But it's one of those beautiful experiences. And the same with pets. I think I've seen a few of them over periods of time. But I'd love that dream. You're like, I'm hanging out with God, because I think that's the ultimate dad experience.
Yes.
The big God, the big dad of them all.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. I've had some others too, and maybe I'll see if you've experienced the similar type of dream, where I've been at locations, and this has happened for like the last year and a half or so, where it's like that feeling that I've moved. And we've moved to a new location, and something's fresh and it's new. It's a place I've never seen. I go into these buildings, these houses. Sometimes they're mansions, sometimes they're like apartments. I just don't know where that comes from, and I don't know if I'm out of body visiting places or what's happening. Have you had any of that?
I've definitely had the experience of going to places and them seeming really real, and me remembering a lot of the details, and then later going to that same spot in real life. And
Right.
like, oh, like I literally dreamed of this place. And so I've had that type of experience. I don't know if that's similar to what you're talking about.
It is. I mean, some of them I haven't seen them yet. So like this, I wake up and I wonder, I'm like, I don't, and I remember most of my travels, even though I've had some issues over the years with an aneurysm and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
I still remember most of the places I've visited, and there's a lot of them. I don't know where these places are. It's the weirdest thing. I've had a reoccurring dream, paranormal wise, that I'm going to come up against something really bad. I remember in the dream, sleep paralysis. I remember in the dream that it was tossing me around and pushing me around, and I was scared to death to go in this house. And I told myself, nope, that's why I do what I do, because I'm one of God's soldiers. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to let this thing know that it's not going to scare me off.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come into this house. So I've had that happen too. Have you had anything along those lines?
I have I do a lot of what I call dream work, and so I travel a lot in my dreams to various places, and there's locations that I go to again and again and again, and I start to map out like how they're actually connected to each other, and then I understand how to travel from one to the other, and that type of thing happens a lot. And I, in doing that work, have developed a lot of protection, and this is part of the same protection that I use when I'm doing my healing work with people and blessings and other things like that with people. And so when things now come to me in dreams that are like that, I literally just laugh at them. I'm like, okay, good luck. Like, dink. And I just like flick them away or just walk away or just watch them flail and try, because because really it's the same in real life as it is in that dream realm. The more confident you are and you know you're God's soldier and you know God would never let you be harmed, and all of your angels, all of your allies, all of your ancestors, like you have hordes of protectors around you, and there's just nothing that could touch you. Actually, the more you know that, have that confidence, the less they can touch you. It's when you really start to say like, oh no, what if it can? Oh, it can. Oh, I think it can. You're like agreeing to
That
it.
root
It's
of
like,
doubt.
oh,
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
So I always have that now, just years and years and years of practice. Like I just not even a question in my mind. So I don't have that anymore in dreams or in reality. But I also know that if I do have that moment of doubt, which we all have, it's because that's the terrifying thought. You're like, well, wait, what if I doubt then? Like, I know I'm going to doubt, so then it gets scary. Well, if you ever have that doubt, you just call on God or your angels or your allies, and they're just there for you instantly. There's no barrier that can stop them. There's no amount of time or distance that could slow them down. Like it's instant. So, the nice thing is to practice when you're awake. And I always tell people this is why we practice prayers or mantras or chants or, requests for our allies or any of that stuff, to get it ingrained in us so that if we are in this situation in sleep or in some other realm, we won't forget and we'll remember, oh, I'm calling on my allies now, and here's how I'm going to do it. So I think this is why we have practices of every kind.
Practice makes perfect.
Right. Gets you ready.
All right. We're going to take another quick break. We got more to discuss when we come back for the last part of the show here. Everybody, you're listening to I Want to Believe Radio on unrestrictedradio.com here Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm glad that you're over here. Do me a favor. As I said before we went into a commercial break, tell your friends, your families, people you don't know, you meet on the street, even the people in your family you can't stand, okay? Tell them that unrestrictedradio.com. Go there, download the app. It's free, and you can listen to all sorts of music and shows that other stations, even your own in your city, will not play. Anything from punk to metal to grunge to classical, you will find it at Unrestricted Radio. We are part of Reverb Nation. I know a lot of you have heard of that. As we, review bands and different music that comes along. And, of course, good friends of mine, the Tomb of Nick Cage. Yes, that is a real band, the Tomb of Nick Cage. They have their music. We play their stuff up there. Thanks for listening. Also, Henderson Castle, hendersоncastle.com. Go take a look at what they have to offer. It's an $18.95 bed and breakfast here in Kalamazoo. Historic Hotel Nichols in South Haven. I'm there tonight. We're doing the show tonight. I am actually in a room where one of the families, the Websters, I believe, and the Nichols didn't stay up here, but I think the Webster family stayed up here in the apartment that I'm in. I've had some things happen since I came in the night, some doors slamming and some different things happening here. But when you're in South Haven, Michigan, this spring, summer, and a little bit of fall, please book your next stay at Hotel Nichols, hotelnichols.com. Gun Barrel Coffee. You've had the rest, drink the best, gunbarrelcoffee.com. We'll be back for more I Want to Believe Radio right after this. Wow, that is a lot to say. I have to start making up. I had commercials and I lost them. I got to make up commercials, and that way I can just say we'll be back after this.
Well, it's been one of my goals to make commercials, but I just haven't done it. It's so easy to just not do it.
Well, if you're producing a show, it's nuts. And then I got to sit here and put in music, because what we do with this show too, they're going to hear some rock music. Us having a music license, I like to throw in a lot of rock music, sometimes in tune with our guest. So like with you tonight, I might play, what would I play? What's his name? Alan Greenspan. Is that his name? You got not a friend in Jesus, but it's, the song I'm talking about. I'm having a brain fart. So I'll probably play him and some other stuff that seems real spiritual and kind of
cool.
spooky. Yeah. I appreciate you again taking the time out and being with me tonight. It
Oh yeah,
means
I
a lot.
appreciate you having
You're a
me.
very interesting person. You have a
Thank you.
lot of stuff to share,
Yeah.
for sure.
I feel
For
like I've
sure.
lived like 5 lifetimes already. That's part of why I'm also like 97. Like, what's going to happen by then? We just like stop. I hope that I've got like most of the action in the front half of my life, and now I get to kind of like relax a bit. That'd be nice.
So how old are you now? 26, 27?
40.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You
Thank
do
you,
not
though.
look like you're 40.
Thank you.
Wow. Wowzers.
I don't mean to
Yeah.
brag, but I do have like 6 gray hairs somewhere up here.
6. Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah.
happened. I just got the good genes.
I was just looking at my beard, how crooked it looks, because you get that dark patch that's high up here and another one's real low.
Oh yeah.
It's all, yeah, it looks crooked, but it's all white. Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm getting ready to turn 59, and I tell everybody that the things I've seen in the short period of time I've been alive. We're talking moon landing in '69.
Yeah.
They took us out of school to go sit in a TV room to watch the man land on the moon. I've seen everything from black and white TVs to color television, the progression. We didn't have a color television until 1973. I remember the year we got it. That was such a big deal in being able to watch Disney on Sunday nights in color. It's just the things that I've seen. Cablevision came along when I was younger. When I was little, we had 3 stations, most people in their towns.
Yeah.
And then cable TV came along. Then we were getting Detroit and Chicago.
We had the TV that you had to dial like a radio. Like,
there's
the
we
channel.
did. Yep. And so, like you said, what would we, if you and I both lived into our 90s, what more are we going to see? I mean, look at the change in cars from when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I can remember these cars the size of an apartment. And they had fins on them, and and then they progressively got smaller. And we went through the 70s where everything was rusted piles of junk. And we look at now, and everybody's building them big again.
Yeah.
Fossil fuels and everything else. Don't get me started. But it's a crazy thing that what you and I will have seen by the time we reach 90.
Yeah, for real. I think about that with my grandma too. She lived through part of the Great Depression and no electricity or running water in the house or anything.
Nuts?
And yeah, by the time she died, we had cell phones.
Yeah.
So
and
weird.
I was going to touch on that. I'll have you back, and we'll be on time next time. I promise. Have you back on another show, and we can talk about that, because I said, look at the jump in technology.
People are injecting chips in their hands now, like for fun. It's crazy.
Yeah, and injecting other things in our bodies too. Oh.
Yeah, we don't even need to know anything about it. Just give it to us. I'm like, have you guys not noticed that nothing anyone makes works?
I have had friends.
Why would you trust this?
I had friends who've had 2 shots and a booster, and they still got COVID. And I'm like, COVID what? How sick were you? Well, I didn't feel good for 3 days.
Like, so who cares then?
Right. It's like, okay. So what was everybody worried about? I don't know.
Something late 2019. It was actually Thanksgiving. Florida. It was powerful. But that's what flus are like. Like, you get sick sometimes, and we got better, and then we were fine. Then all of a sudden, everyone's talking about COVID, and we're like, oh, that's what we just had. It sounds exactly the same.
That's what my wife said. Yeah, December of 19. Yeah, I was sick, and I'm on the high list because of I've got an autoimmune disease. I have connective tissue disorder, so it's it's one of these things, and I've been healthier than I've been in years.
Yeah,
and I didn't mask up. I did when I had to go in the store, but I'm just like, I am not playing this game.
They're filthy. They just gather disease.
Being that we were nurses when we met, we were trying to tell people, when do you mask the healthy people?
Yeah.
Are we missing something here?
Well, and I hated that everyone was like, well, doctors do it. And I'm like, doctors do it for like an hour or 2 so that they don't drip sweat and spit into an open surgical wound.
Correct.
That's the only time.
And I said, if we were in a real plague, I would just tell people, walk to your local Kroger or Walmart and see all the gloves and masks and watch what people do. We'd all be dead. We'd all be dead right now, because if there was a real serious thing, nobody could handle it. The amount of cross-contamination I witness every day and still witness just amazes my mind. Absolutely blows me away. And I'm just, I don't know. I don't want to get on that.
Be like holding their mask and smoking. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Or I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and we have walking trails out here, and I look, and there's a dude with his mask on.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I slow down and I'm looking on purpose. Like there's nobody else out here.
See, and I spent my childhood thinking I was mentally ill, and then there's these people no one cares about.
Right. I think most of the people in the world, on the whole continent of the world, they just. I don't want to use the word sheep. I don't want people sending me hate mail.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I know because they can still see us, but it's like, guys,
they're not thinking.
Come on, man. Think for yourself. This is why God gave you free thought. Logical thinking is, critical thinking and logical thinking is not a terrible thing unless you misuse it. That's all I got to say about that.
Right.
Craziness, absolute craziness. And I don't profess to know it all, but we'll get back to the show. It's nutty.
Yeah.
I'd love to come on your other show and we just talk.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
As I said, I don't hold back here. I tell everybody I'm all about, God,
too.
family, and if you don't believe in God, I'm cool with you too. I still love you. I got people, my kids, couple of my own children are atheists. They don't believe in nothing.
They'll come back around someday.
One of them's doing pagan stuff, and the other, I'm just like, you do what you're going to do, man. Do what you're going to do. But, boobs, beer in America.
Right.
Isn't that terrible? Isn't that a sexist thing to say? That's so sexist.
Yeah, you can be crucified for that now, I think.
I know. You can't say anything fun anymore. God forbid. But you go to TikTok and they're jumping their boobs all day long.
No, I'm like, this is all that I have on TikTok is just sex. I'm like, what is this app?
Yeah. I mean, I got on there because I liked a lot of the funny stuff people were putting up. And then I'm like, it's all boobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to complain, but I'm just like, I'm looking for the comedy. Where's the comedy?
Yeah, all right. I've had people be like, I want your TikTok stream. I'm like, you can have it. I don't even look anymore. It's scary.
Right. And welcome back, everybody. You're here with us on I Want to Believe. And of course, those of you watching heard a lot of our crazy discussion. But we didn't go anywhere. We were right here in the studio. I'm in the Hotel Nichols. Lindsay SHYRMAN, correct?
Yes.
SHYRMAN. Don't squeeze the SHYRMAN.
That's right. That's it.
Okay. Just gave it that dramatic pause. But she is with us, and I've had just a great time delving into her mind and letting her express herself and what it is she sees and what she's experienced. I want to talk a little bit about that technology. We'll just jump into that too, since we're covering all the bases here. Is there anything in specific before I go forward that you would like to touch on or talk about?
Oh, we're good. We can go anywhere you want.
Okay. I was thinking we could go to Florida. I mean,
I'll take it. You're buying.
Right. No snow. I'd like the snow. I'm one of the weirdos. Technology. We talked about that, with these beings and these visits and different things. The jump in technology has been, I don't know what the word, incredulous is that a word I could use? It's been crazy, because if you look at man's time span over the years, if you studied history and where we've become from the Renaissance era to medieval times, Renaissance, all the way up, it took years of progression to get to certain points in time, even though, ancient man wasn't stupid, because I watched this great docuseries that shows that we were doing a lot of things way before we were doing them. Mm-hmm. But on the onset of things, the majority of people, we were barely still using the wheel, when things came along. The Great War taught us nothing but how to kill on a grander scale. I think a lot of things came out of that in certain areas. But, World War II, the progression from World War II to where we're at now was dramatically quick. And I mean quick. And I have to ask myself, where did some of that technology come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really fascinating too to hear the scientists and inventors themselves describe where they got some of their information, right? And it seems exactly like some of the other things we've been describing, where sometimes it's coming from a good place with good intentions that wants us to be more free and more, true and in touch with nature and in balance. And then some seems to be coming from a bad place that wants us to kill and maim and destroy ourselves and each other. And so you just have to wonder, and, Nikola Tesla and a lot of these people, if we're to believe what we're told about them and what seems to be true about them, is that they channeled this or received information from non-corporeal sources. So were they angels, demons, or otherwise? There's a really fascinating guy right now, and he's featured on the movie Thrive 2. If anybody knows Foster Gamble or the movies Thrive 1 and Thrive 2, they really try to shine a light on what humanity can still do to save itself and not fall down into the clutches of, evil apocalyptic horror. which would be nice if we could avert that. And one of the people they highlight in the most recent Thrive 2 is a guy, I'm going to forget his name, but he's from Africa, and he developed a free energy machine. And they, they're skeptics too. So they went to investigate and say, oh, probably not. A lot of people claim, infinite energy or whatever those are called. And most of them are not really real. And, they went and they studied it and they saw it, and it produced thousands of times more energy than went into it. And so they thought, well, this is a really big deal. And so they're working with him now to produce it. And they asked him, how did you learn this? How did you develop this? And where did it come from? And he said, God sent his angels to me, and they told me how to do it. And they told me to give it to the people to free humanity. So I also hear on the other side, and I also hear on the other side of things, people like Geordie Rose and different people working with what you might call the technocracy and the technocratic elite, from like DARPA and the D-Wave computers and CERN and these places. Geordie Rose and his will say things like, oh, we are in contact with interdimensional entities and intelligences who are telling us how to do these things and want to come into this dimension more fully. And that's why we build these things. And that's insane.
It's insane. Yeah. And I've heard a few of those. I've heard of a few of those people over with George Norrie's program. Coast to Coast AM. And I was listening to a gentleman who he's like, listen, I offered this stuff up to NASA and the United States, and because they didn't want to sink money into it, then I'm selling it to people overseas, in the Middle East area. And I'm not going to mention his name. I do remember his name, but you guys can look this up. But, he too has started to construct a lot of things that are trying to better us. For space travel, for the future, he's, living accommodations because of the overpopulation, all sorts of things that this guy's doing is just mind boggling. And because like you said, the powers that be don't want to let up control. It's part of what they do is controlling the mass. NASA is one of the worst offenders out there. I know a lot of people are fans of NASA. I'm not a big fan. We could go into a whole nother show why I don't like NASA, but they're keeping a lot of things back, and you're right. And even hydrogen, hydrogen producing energy. Remember when the guy produced the hydrogen car and then it just disappeared, and then the three big, it's gone. The three big people ran him into the ground. And I'm all about keeping my fossil fuel in my car, but if you could give me a hydrogen motor that does what my car does, I'll use that all day long. I'm all about saving the earth.
Yes.
Come on, guys.
If they really were about that, then they wouldn't be putting their energies into electric cars, which do not save the earth in any way.
They don't. Those those lithium battery factories are terrible.
The mines, if you've seen the mines, they just go deep down into the earth and leave this trash in the way and all of this chemical, nasty pollution. They're horrifying. And then you're still using fossil fuels. Where do you think your electricity comes from? For most of it, it comes from nuclear or coal or some of these other things that aren't actually your green dream that you've been told you should be going after. So it's really interesting to see that bait and switch there when we've had these technologies, like you said, the hydrogen car. And it's weirdly, a lot of these inventors that are perfectly happy, intelligent people that create these things suddenly feel suicidal when people find their inventions.
And then they mysteriously show up dead, or and
then
crazy.
Their labs just mysteriously burn down, and everything they've ever done is mysteriously gone.
Isn't that crazy? It's
so
crazy. It's so nutty.
It's a dangerous game.
It's great to meet somebody that thinks like me. On some things. I will say some things. There's a gentleman too, look at the founder of Greenpeace, who he was just with George, I think, last year. And he's like, they won't mention my name because now he's gone against them because, he talks about how, with certain nuclear plants that it's cleaner and safer than it ever has been, which there is some truth to what he's saying. Because they took the message that they had in the 70s when the stuff was untried and untrue, and there were all sorts of accidents and things happening. But he's one of those same guys. He's just like, listen, if you stop hearing from me, things have happened. But I find it funny that Greenpeace won't even bring his name up, and he founded the damn thing. And you could still at least find that under Wikipedia. But it's one of these guys too that he's out there telling the truth. He's like, listen, man, there's cleaner ways to do this. There's different ways to do this. And we just have to, we got off track here. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
It's interesting. I wonder, where do you see us as humanity in connection with all the things that you're in tune to and things that I feel I'm in tune to? I'll ask you, and then I'll give you my point of view. Where do you see that helps us, and where do you see that helping us more in the future, if it does?
It's worrisome. I try not to do too many like prophetic look aheads or what I think is going to happen, because I don't want to get too much in the vein of sort of manifesting or helping them manifest the future they want to see by imagining it and giving our fear and our energy to it.
Okay.
So it doesn't seem super good right now. It seems like the the forces, I call them the psychopathic elite, are doing a really good job pulling off their evil plans. And so I don't know that the future looks so bright right away. And I have a really intense experience that happened to me a handful of years ago that I could share with you that doesn't make things look great either.
No.
So I wandered into a spiritual expo, which I normally wouldn't be caught dead at. I really despise what people call the new age. I really despise people who proclaim themselves as gurus or masters or teachers. I think most people are phonies and fakes and charlatans, and so I just try to stay away from some of that. Yeah.
Just got the slow applause. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm the same way. Yep.
So,
even some of the shaman stuff. I know that you get shamanic stuff, but there's that's a whole nother thing. Go ahead. I'll let you continue.
Most of them, most of the time, are just
they're Looney Tunes. Yeah. They're gone. Yeah.
Right. And often a lot of times they maybe unintentionally are going along with some pretty evil plans that they just don't see for some reason too. So I'm like, well, how spiritual and in touch can you really be if you don't even see anything that's happening? But anyways, I was just synchronistically again guided to go to this place, and it just so happened that I had like 3 hours to kill, and it just so happened that this event was happening, and it was raining out, and I had to get out of the rain while I was waiting, in between things. And so I was like, oh, I'll just go, whatever, who cares? So I went. It was cheap. I just wandered in, and I went to this booth, and I saw this book on this guy's shelf, and I looked and I got stunned, and he said, what? And I said, oh, it's just so weird. I had a dream about that book last night. I've never seen the book. I've never heard of the book. And he said, oh, well, that's what I brought it for then. It's yours. And I was like, oh, I mean, how much is it? And he's like, no, I brought this book because someone was supposed to come ask me for it, and it's you. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So I got this book. And I was talking to him because obviously that was very weird in itself. And he said, come to this talk I'm giving later, whatever. And he seemed really cool, like a down to earth, normal guy. I was like, okay, that's cool. So I went to his talk. He was like, yeah, a lot of these people are charlatans and fakes, just like we were just saying. And he's like, I just want people to get some idea of how to take care of themselves, love themselves, be more in touch or whatever. He's like, what do you guys want to know? Do you want to know about this, this, this? And one of the things he offered was, reflexology. And everyone was like, sure, let's talk about reflexology. So he was teaching us reflexology. So I was like, I already like this guy because he's like, I don't care. What do you guys want to do? Let's do that. He's just very down to earth. Then as he's talking, he's teaching us reflexology and stuff. And he's saying, to be spiritual, you don't have to like live in a cave and like not eat meat. He's like, you can just be you and I was like, yeah, that's my brand too. Like, I like this guy a lot. Well, he's talking. And all of a sudden I see this light come through the wall. And this, again, I've seen thousands of times in my life. It's exactly like those little lights I see all the time and interact with. But I look around, I'm like, is anyone else seeing this? And no one seems to be reacting to it, at least. And so I'm like, that's weird. And the light kind of looks around a little or moves around. Then it just drops into his head, and he shakes his head and he starts talking differently. And I'm like, is no one else seeing this, hearing this, experiencing this? Like, this is really weird. And no one else seems to really notice. And honestly, but I'm noticing, I'm like, he's talking differently. Like, his voice sounds different. His mannerisms are different. And all of a sudden he's talking about this prophecy and these timelines and these things that are going to happen. And I'm like, this is really weird. So, but the essence of what he was saying during this period of time was that starting in 2022, the world would become very dark and much worse than we think. And that it would then go through a time of tribulation that would last 11 years. And by 2033, he said, I will return to you. Christ consciousness will come back to the earth. And I said, that's a really weird thing to say while you're teaching us reflexology. In my head, I'm just like, this is very strange. And then the light pops out of his head and he shakes his head and he goes, that wasn't me. That was Sai Baba. And I'm like, what is Sai Baba? Like, he starts telling us the story of Sai Baba, and the little light just goes away. And I'm like, does nobody else think this is fucking crazy? Like, sorry if I'm not supposed to swear.
No, you can swear.
So that was what this consciousness calling itself Sai Baba, who dropped into this man's head while I was talking to him at this thing, said to me. And so what is also interesting on a totally different note is that much, much, much before that, I had a out of body experience in which I was being guided by entities that probably people would call aliens to do all kinds of things. And one of the things they showed me was a timeline of my life. And I saw many things that would happen through my life, and all of those things have happened. And the timeline ended at 2021. And I asked, why can't I see beyond 2021? And they didn't answer, and I went back to my body. So I always thought I was going to die in 2021. And now I wonder if why I didn't see past 2021 is because of whatever is starting perhaps this year. That maybe I wouldn't have come this far if I knew what was maybe coming. And I don't know if that's it or if it's something else, but it's weird that those two both had the same date.
It started out with Betty White and Bob Saget. So
Yeah,
I guess,
can't go much else.
You can just go downhill from here.
Right.
I guess is where we're going. That's pretty prophetic. I mean,
I hope it's wrong. I hope the 2022 date is just like, haha, just joking. Everything gets really great.
Right. I've always had, I'm like you too. I'm hoping it's wrong. Obviously, why would we want to have things, go to hell in a handbasket? I have faith in humanity. I think probably more than most people do, but I'm hoping we're smart enough to keep ourselves out of that type of stuff. But as far as spiritually, I mean, the way I look at it and what happens with me is that I'm going to try to continue to go forward and just continue to help people. I do that with all facets of my life, and
that's
I'm
all that would matter anyway,
right?
Whether it was good or bad or anywhere in between.
Correct. And I'm going to be here for the dead as well. As I said, I'm going to keep talking to them, and they said I've got an investigation coming up this weekend, and I got new things going on here. I guess, as far as that abduction thing, we'll have to save that for another show. But as far as that goes, that kind of weirded me out because I'd have missing time and I've had some odd things happen to me. And I think it's because, the guest had told me that due to some of my questions and my insight into the universe. And I will remind everybody that, I'll close it out with this, guys. We're this. If anybody can see me, I'm doing this tiny, tiny little thing with my finger. We are a speck in the understanding. To think that we understand everything due to our physics and our math, don't fool yourselves. We invented math. We invented our own physics. Now, these are things that are evident to us as where we're at with our understanding as human beings. It's great to say that, these ships can't be doing this stuff, or these things we see in the sky, the stuff that happens to us from the other side, the veil, whatever it may be. I think it's all real. I mean, I'm the skeptic. I want to see it first to be able to say that I can relate to it. But we're tiny. We're tiny in our understanding. And if you don't think that there's more going on out here, the good and bad is the balance of the universe. I think it's the balance of everything that's in creation. You got to have that good and the bad. I think if we've learned anything, it's a balance. I would like to think that good is obviously going to win over anything that's negative or evil, but
it does.
but where I'm going with this is that's where my thought process is. I try not to look back at all the negative stuff. Sometimes it catches up to me. I don't know if I'm making any sense to anybody. I just continually spiritually to open myself up and say, listen, there's more going on than that I know. And when they want to talk to me and communicate, they know I'm always open and available.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful and best way to do it. It's like I say a lot, I'm not dead yet. And so I'm here. And while I'm here, I'm going to be doing this. And what this is exactly what you just described, is a being of service to God and to the light, and whatever God wants me to do, that's what I'm going to do. And if that involves maybe going through a couple hard, bad years, then that's what we're going to do. But we're going to come out the other side. And again, whether that entity and that consciousness and that message it gave is true or not, the truth is that we ourselves always continue, and that we ourselves always continue to gain goodness and create goodness if that's what we're choosing to do. And we can do that in any situation.
That's the strangeness. Now, did you have anybody that's connected to you that had drowned? Anybody who's drowned?
Not that I can think of. My dad saved someone from drowning once.
Was there a canoe involved?
I don't think so. I think he jumped off a bridge. I think he saw a kid drowning and jumped off a bridge and into the water and saved him.
Wow.
He was in the newspaper for it, but I can't remember much details.
That's cool. That's very cool. Well, Lindsey, it's been a wonderful time to have you on. I'm sorry that we had to wait so long and it was late, and you are a sport. I mean that, for hanging tough and not giving up on me. I want to say a big thank you for that. We will definitely have things in order next time we have you on, which I promise I will. And we're going to a different format. We're going to be all video, so it won't be just audio anymore. So some big changes in the next couple of weeks, but I'd love to have you on again and tell everybody where they can find all of your information, all of your stuff, and how we get to you.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been good to be here and meet you and talk to you, and we've had a great conversation. I appreciate open minds and open hearts like yours, so thank you. Anybody can go to rogueways.org, and it's not waves like the ocean waves. It's like pathways that you walk down. So rogueways.org, and the show is Rogue Ways, but rogueways.org has the hub of everything I do. I do spiritual guidance work, blessing, healings of all kinds, tarot readings, and more. And my books are there as well that you can pick up. My most recent is All Endings Are Beginnings, and it's actually a channeled from God and source. And so the messages are all very beautiful and uplifting. And it's meant to be there for you to consult in times of darkness, doubt, or, disconcerting things going on, or to use as an oracle. If you have a question, you can ask and just flip open to a page, and that will be your answer. So I've gotten just hundreds of responses from readers who can't believe how direct the answer really is and how specific the question can be. So I just encourage you to grab All Endings Are Beginnings, at least, if not all of my books, if you're a reader. That one is really fun for anybody, even if you're not a reader, because like I said, it just serves a really beautiful purpose. So grab that book, and you can find my show Rogue Ways on Rockfin mostly. Rockfin doesn't censor anything. I do try to stream to YouTube, but I always have to cut the feed because we're going to talk about real things, and YouTube doesn't like that. So you can find it on YouTube, but you won't find the whole episodes of most of the shows there. You'll have to go to rockfin.com/rogueways to get those, and it is free, just like YouTube. It's just a different platform. And you can also find it on every podcast app if you like to listen instead of watch. So there's all that I can think to share.
Well, if you would send me a link to Rockfin, and I will make sure it's available on my network, because I'm the same way. My Big Dog Show is out there and in your face, and I just say it like it is. If you don't like it, you know what to do. You can click to something else.
You have a brain. You have fingers.
Correct. Because the last thing I want to do is to expose any of you to extremist type behaviors and ways of thinking,
Right.
Because, I don't want to be the guy responsible for saying, hey, let's live by the Constitution. God forbid.
That's extremist somehow now. It's extremist to talk about.
Now this video is going to be pulled down now.
Right.
YouTube's not going to like it.
Yeah. We're like, those two are talking truth. Get it out of here.
Yeah, we're talking truth. Time to shut them down. Well, I appreciate you being here. We'll look for you out there. And, by all means, send me more links to that stuff. I've got your sheet here that Michelle sent me. So if I just ask you guys to do it because I'm lazy. I'm a lazy old man, and I'll forget because I have a lot of stuff going on. But it's been wonderful to talk to you. You're such a great. I can just see the light. I mean, you're like a light bulb. And keep doing the work you're doing and helping people out there. It means a lot to me too, because there are so many people who I think spiritually get lost. It's not about religion, man. It's about spiritualism. It's about what you have in your heart and your head, folks. That's where I think God has always been for me.
Absolutely.
And if you don't believe, I still love you. You still got a right. You have a right not to.
God's still in your heart, even if you don't know it.
Correct. He's not going to throw you aside just because you don't believe. Come on now.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Elmer couldn't stay with us because he's got a bad connection, so I'll sign off the show. We always tell everybody to keep your eyes to the sky and happy hunting. And this is my message to everybody, that if you cannot be smarter and kinder, please be quieter. Okay? That's all you got to do. It does not cost you folks a thing to be quiet. Just to share a smile and be nice to everybody. It's not that hard.
No, it's perfect.